elsewhere, the legislature develops with people having the opportunity to be there, grow in the system, learn the procedures, become experts at various aspects of the law. And they become almost like authorities themselves because they've been there so long. In America, you have senators who have been in the Senate 25, 30 years.
Up to 40 years, 50 years.
Here in Nigeria, there's this high turnover. You know, just as the representative or the senator is getting used to the system and so on, an election cycle comes around, he or she doesn't return to the Senate or to the House of Reps. Has that impacted on the performance of the legislature, you think?
Yeah, definitely we've recorded high turnover, you know, for parliamentarians, you know, both at the local level, the state level, and the national level. And for me, it's a major setback, you know, because what happens is that over the 4 years period of the parliamentarian and the parliament, a lot of money will be spent, you know, training this parliamentarian, exposing him to the best practices, you know, he will attend seminars, workshops, he will learn from his colleagues. After 4 years, he won't come back. And then a new set of people come in and they'll start again to train them and start learning. By the time they thought they've learned anything, they've gone. You know, the reason being that we have this attitude of turn by turn. You know, some people say, oh, we've agreed that you just do one time, you come back, and that person will have to go and all that. You know, so that's not helping our situation. Because the idea of allowing people to stay long in the parliament is to have institutional memories. When you have somebody who has been in the National Assembly, for instance, for upwards of 20 years, what that means is that you have seen about 2 to 3 sets of presidents. And so if anything happens in the land, you can say, let us call this senator, let's call this member of the House of Representatives, ask him, how was this handled in the past? You know, and then he can provide institutional memory. You know, he would have attended so many parliamentary organization meetings all over the world, you know, and then, of course, he would have made so many friends as well across the globe, you know, so that if there's anything that has to do with diplomacy, you know, in respect of the country, somebody can offer some advice. And then you can say, okay, I have a friend in this country, I have a friend in this organization I can speak to. You know, that's why people are left in parliament for many years in those countries.
And there are no term limits anyway for the legislature, the way there are in the other arms of government, precisely for this reason.
Definitely, yeah, that's the thing. Possibly, I think maybe in Mexico, that's where you have a term limit for parliamentarians. Even at that, it's a single term of 6 years. But after another period of 6 years, you can come back again to do another 6 years. You know, so unlike in the executive in Mexico, which you do just 6 years and you go. So each country tries to encourage this idea of keeping the parliamentarian as much as possible in order to maintain institutional memory.
Now, let me bring you back to the constitutional amendments that you were talking about a bit earlier. For quite a while, you have sat in the middle of that because as Deputy Senate President, you chair the joint committee on constitutional reform. And you've done that over the last cycles. Now, there are some specific amendments that have either helped or in practice maybe hindered growth and all of that. The issue of litigations, pre-election and election litigation, the issue of independence of INEC, even the issue of independent candidacy, the issue of how much money can be spent by politicians in campaigns, how long campaigns can run for, and all of that. Even post-election disputes, how long is allowed for them to be resolved, and so on. Now, overall first, in practice, because it's one thing to make the laws, but then when you then see them in practice, there are opportunities to see if there are possibilities where there are gaps. Have you noticed any of those in practice, having put together so many of these amendments? Have you seen any things where you say, oh, we didn't think about this aspect of it and so on?
You're right.
And if so, how have you gone about, because the constitutional amendment process is very tedious.
That's true.
It's extremely tedious. And people then say, oh, if we have to go through this all over again. So sometimes there's lethargy about amending the amendment. What's been your experience?
I think one that probably comes to mind now is the issue of time frame within which to conclude election petitions. So in 2010, we figured that it takes so much time to conclude election petitions. There were instances where matters go to election tribunal, and by the time you conclude that matter, the time for the period for the office for which it's been contested had expired. I had an incident when I came into the Senate in 2003. One of my colleagues from River State, he had an election matter that started in 1999. He was elected to the Senate in 1999. So the matter went to the tribunal. They fought the matter all the way to the Supreme Court. The matter was still on. By the time we met them in the Senate in 2003, they had then been re-elected. So, and then when he had spent about a year in that particular Senate, then the court now came to the conclusion that he was not validly elected in the first one. Meanwhile, he had concluded the tenure and was being re-elected. So we now said, okay, no, we have to do something about this. So we now amended Section 285 of the Constitution to place time limits within which election matters must be concluded. So you have to file your petition within 14 days from the conduct of the election. 180 days, the petition would have been concluded. If there's any appeal arising therefrom, the Court of Appeal must deal with that within a period of 60 days. And then if you go to the Supreme Court, another 60 days. Now, we thought to have captured the whole essence. Now, it didn't occur to us that there's another issue, which is the pre-election matters. So what we amended only affected election matters. So the issue of primaries still linger on to the Supreme Court last from years. Some of them that started in 2015 are still there at the Supreme Court. In fact, yesterday the one concerning my governor also came up at the Supreme Court, and they adjourned, I think, to sometime in February. So I can imagine by the time the matter is concluded, he would have finished his term. So what did we do? So we now decided in this last exercise to amend Section 285 further to now include pre-election matters. And I will use this opportunity to explain a bit of it so that Nigerians understand how it impacts on them, because most people did not know that that aspect has been taken care of. Let me say that out of the about 15 of such amendments sent to the president has signed 5. And incidentally, the issue of the pre-election matters is one of those which the president signed. The implication, therefore, is that matters concerning pre-election, and pre-elections are matters that took place prior to the election itself. Things that had to do with primaries, aspirants, where, for instance, they are contesting the issue of who won the primaries, the issue of whether INEC had followed the rules, whether the Electoral Act or any act of the National Assembly has been breached or otherwise in respect of the primaries. So such matters must have to be concluded within a definite period. So what we have provided for, which of course have been assented to, is that any of such complaints must be filed in court, not less than 14 days after it occurred. So if you go after 14 days, then the court will not entertain the matter any longer. And once it's filed, now, if there are any issues that are technical, like jurisdiction and all that, the court will not touch it. They have to wait until the matter is concluded, so it will be taken together with the whole aspect of the matter. And even at that matter must be concluded within 180 days, just as the election matters. And if there's any appeal arising there too, of course, it has to be dealt with within 60 days. So that now has put to a halt this issue of pre-election matters, going on forever. So, and I guess that this will also help the system.